Welcome to Kairos Research Center podcast. Christian faith seeking understanding, intellectual witness, and spiritual renewal.
Okay, King, some scholars do not believe that the Bible teaches dualism. Tell us, what is the competing view against biblical dualism, and is there a specific name to label this contrasting view?
On the question on the dispute between dualism, what it means, I think the issue of death and afterlife becomes a crucial point of comparison. Monism argues that a human being, even monism in the Bible, according to these scholars, says that human beings are not divided into separate parts, body, soul, and spirit. Because many parts of the Bible view a human being as a holistic, a unified self. Soul and body are just different aspects of a person. And so, if there is existence, existence entails bodily existence. And therefore, there is no possibility of a disembodied existence after the soul, for the soul after death. In other words, there's only one form of existence, physical existence. And that's why it's called monism. But we have to make sense of what it means when a person dies. Because so often in the Bible, we read that when death comes, that yes, it involves the disintegration of a person's vital power, a cessation of bodily life, a separation of body and the soul, and there is a talk about the soul continuing to exist after the death of a person. So in that sense, you can sense a certain disjunction between monism, which says there is no existence of the soul after death, and the Bible, which does talk about post-mortem existence, some form of existence of the disembodied soul with some form of consciousness in this state between death and final resurrection, or the intermediate state. So let me just pass this out. If the Bible talks about the soul departing from the body at the moment of death, where are the date between death and judgment? Well, in the Old Testament, everyone who dies goes to a place called Sheol, S-H-E-O-L. What is Sheol? Sheol is a place where everybody fears to go. It's feared and abhorred because in death, it deprives everyone of his life. Well, Sheol is a place, but sometimes Sheol can just mean death of a person. 1 Samuel 2:6, which says, "The Lord kills and brings to life. He brings down to Sheol and raises up." So it means death. Sheol can be just a reference to a grave. Ezekiel 32 verse 27, where many are slaughtered and buried with their weapons. Sheol is, like in Isaiah 14 verses 9 to 20, Sheol is described as a bed in darkness with dust, worm, and decay, which seems to describe graphically what is typical of a Palestinian tomb. But on the other hand, yes, this applies to everybody. Sheol also describes the fate of a Babylonian king who was slain in battle and then trampled underfoot. You would have thought this means that it's just been buried in the grave. But when you read that context, Isaiah chapter 14, it shows that the denizens of Sheol, or sometimes called the spirits or shades, Rephaim, R-E-P-H-A-I-M, Rephaim, the spirits in Sheol are so shady in material, they're called shades, so to say. When the Babylonian king who was slain in battle, on the one hand, he was trampled underfoot, gives the impression that he was also buried. On the other hand, he went to Sheol. And when he arrived at Sheol, the denizens of Sheol rise up to mock the king for his hubris and humiliation, because he was aspiring to think that he would take the place of God. But in his downfall, now he goes to Sheol. He's reduced to a weak and shadowy existence. Now, you notice if in this depiction of the king of Babylonian in Sheol, the spirits of Sheol rise up. It seems that they're alive, so to say, and they recognize the king who just arrived at Sheol. And it has to be more than just the grave, because the contrast between the highest heaven and Sheol as the furthest place below heaven suggests that Sheol is not just a grave. It is actually also the home of the departed in the underworld. So now you have Sheol describing death, Sheol describing the grave, Sheol describing the place of the departed in the underworld. So it's the context that will determine whether Sheol is used literally to describe a place or to describe a state of death. So the soul departs from the body and goes somewhere. But while Sheol is described as a place where the people go after death, when the wicked dies, his soul enters into Sheol, a place of hopelessness and despair. Psalm 88 verses 3 to 5. And my life draws near to Sheol. I am counted among those who go down the pit. I am a man who has no strength, like one set loose among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, like those whom you remember no more, or they are cut off from your hands. So there is nothing positive awaiting the wicked when he dies. On the other hand, when the righteous dies, obviously his body is buried in the grave. But when we read further, the Old Testament gives a more positive expectation for the soul that is righteous, in that he will enter into the presence of God, which I will elaborate later. Now, talking about Sheol, I think it's good to look at it a little bit more in detail, because the anticipation of life after death was not just restricted to the Jews or the Israelites. In the ancient pagan worlds, the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and the Greeks like Homer and Plato, or Romans, Virgil, they all believe that all human spirits go to one and the same underworld. And so when the Old Testament talks about Sheol, a neater world for the dead, it shares some commonalities with the ideas of the ancient world. But it also suggests that the righteous and the unrighteous experience different fates. Now, let me just show you, in the ancient world, the underworld is also looked at a little bit differently, in that there is a place for the good, there's a place for the wicked. For the pagan, for example, in the chart here, Elysium, for those who lead a good life, hunting and hunting, good, happy hunting ground, you may say. Whereas the wicked are sent to a place called Tartarus. So that's a pagan view of the afterlife. Now, in a sense, because of the influence of the Greeks, over time, you may say, the different destination of the righteous and the righteous are also envisaged within Sheol itself. Hades and Paradise, the different regions in Sheol, depending on the moral worthiness of the dead. So these are the views of the Pharisees, for example, or in the book of 1 Enoch. Meaning that in their view, the wicked are sent for punishment in Hades. But the righteous are sent to this place called Abraham's bosom, which is alluded to in the parable of Dives and Lazarus in Luke chapter 16. This was the development of the views in the intertestamental times. But it became the basis for medieval Christian teaching of this phrase called harrowing of hell. What is that? In this medieval teaching of the harrowing of hell, what happens was when Christ died, his spirits went down to Sheol, and then Sheol, which comprises Hades and Paradise, Christ proclaimed to the spirit, and he took with him the righteous dead to join with him in his ascension to heaven. This is called emptying of hell of the righteous, emptying of hell, or Sheol, so to say, when Christ resurrected and ascended. This is the medieval teaching. It suggests, for example, that Christ, between his death and resurrection, descended into hell to rescue and bring salvation to the righteous who were dwelling there in paradise, who died before he came. Now, this is not directly taught in Scripture, you may want to say. And so, it's good for scholars to be cautious in interpreting Sheol as divided into Hades and Paradise. In a sense, the New Testament evidence remains incomplete. Incomplete doesn't mean inconsistent. But in another sense, a closer look at the Old Testament suggests it may not be quite right, in the New Testament especially, it may not be quite right to envisage Sheol as having Hades and Paradise. Well, let's look a closer look. You look at the Old Testament, yes, Sheol does refer to a place of deep darkness and punishment. And in a sense, it is also therefore personified as the danger and the ill fate that awaits believers and unbelievers when they enter into death when they die. Now, as I've said, there are people who say Sheol comprises Hades and Paradise, and then they're put together in Sheol. But it doesn't seem to be the case when we read the New Testament. Let's look at Luke chapter 16, the parable of Lazarus. You can see that Hades and Paradise are not placed together in Sheol, because it was described Lazarus, Sheol, you may say Sheol was far off from, Abraham's bosom was far off from Sheol. And indeed, in Luke 16:24, it is described Abraham's bosom is separated from Hades by a great chasm. There is a separation. Not just collectively two of them put together in Sheol. There is a great chasm, and it's far off between Hades and Sheol. Hades is the Greek word to translate Sheol, by the way. There's a difference between Abraham's bosom, where Lazarus was, and Hades, where the rich man was suffering. So, in a sense, there are two. You may say that you can only speak about two divisions where the righteous and the unrighteous go. We can only speak of it figuratively, because when we look at the Old Testament, when the Old Testament testimony, what the Old Testament testimony says is that when the believer dies, he enters into the Lord's presence with fuller blessings of salvation. Let me read to you what the Old Testament says. Psalm 17 verse 15 is how the psalmist expresses his confidence. Whereas the pagans or the unbeliever look at the prospect of death with terror and anxiety, the righteous talk so differently. Psalm 17 verse 15, he says, "As for me, I shall behold your face in righteousness. When I awake, I shall be satisfied with your likeness." Psalm 73 verse 24, "You guide me with your counsel, and afterwards you will receive me to glory." Psalm 14:32, "The wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous finds refuge in death." So this is the confident expectation of the righteous in the Old Testament. And that's why they read with great encouragement the incidents of Enoch and Elijah, who, so to say, did not die, or rather did not experience Sheol, because they were taken up in glory. Whereas the wicked suffer a different fate. For example, Proverbs 5:5 says, "Her feet," the sinner, this seducer, "her feet goes down to death. Her steps follow the path to Sheol." So there is a difference. On the one hand, the wicked goes to a horrible place. But the Old Testament, yes, granted that he's perplexed, he's troubled by the prospect of death. But at the same time, the righteous believer expresses confidence that they will not be separated from God's care and love in the realm of death. So there are different expectations, different experience of post-mortem existence. So regardless of some of this debate about division in Sheol, or rather while emphasizing the believer's confidence that when he dies, he enjoys God's presence and blessings, in contrast to the wicked. For our present purpose, in view of our question about monism and dualism, the prima facie evidence from our discussion about people being recognized after death, they have consciousness, they seem to be enjoying different destinations between the wicked and the righteous. What we can say is, the Bible shows that, one, the soul is separated from the body after death, after which the soul of the righteous continues a shady existence in Sheol, but the soul of the righteous returns to a provisional blessed existence in the presence of God. So that has to be clear, and monism should therefore be questioned.